Is my child straight or gay? These days, kids come out earlier as gay, but could someone know if their child is gay in the crib, in the womb even? To find a gene that answers the "is my baby gay" question would be one of the more controversial medical mysteries solved. So, has it been? Here's Lynn Scher.
Childhood. We used to be happy waiting it out to see what our kids grew into. Today, they're figuring out who they are a lot sooner.
I would say that I felt different as far back as kindergarten, first grade. I knew there was something about me that wasn't like the rest of the guys.
When I was 5 years old, I remember kissing a boy on the yellow bus going to school and telling him he was going to be my boyfriend.
Gay kids, how can they be so sure? It's a medical mystery, one of the biggest debates of our time. Is there a gene that determines whether you're gay or straight? Some scientists think it's mostly biological. Others say it's a learned behavior. Not that kids need science to confirm what they already know. Zach O'Connor, now 18, says he knew he was different from the time he was 5 or 6. Most of his friends growing up in suburban Madison, Connecticut were girls, and he once asked his parents for a Barbie dream house. Why did you want that?
I guess I didn't want to associate myself with guys because I was like, well, I don't want any feelings to happen. So I'll associate myself with girls, I'll be friends with girls, I'll do what girls like.
Did your parents get you the Barbie house?
No.
And that's our next adventure of
Zach says he didn't know why he was different. He just knew he liked boys. Not romantically, not then. But at about 11, his feelings began to deepen and he started wrestling with his sexual identity. Do you have any recollection when you applied the term gay to yourself for the first time?
I would say around summer of my 6th going into 7th grade, I was going, okay, I think I might be gay. That's the word that's kind of, you know, classifying all these feelings I have, kind of saying, all right, this is what it is.
Zach was so confused he searched the internet for an explanation, but couldn't find an answer to the mystery of why he was gay. Finally, when he turned 13, he no longer felt he had to keep it a secret. Impulsively, in math class one day, he leaned over his desk and whispered to a female friend.
Hey, guess what? I'm actually gay. And she went, really? I went, yeah. Yeah, I am. And she goes, cool.
With that act of courage behind him, he went home to tell his parents, Dan and Cindy.
The first person I told was my mom, and I told her I'm gay. And her reaction was she just went, okay. Well, dinner's ready in 10 minutes.
Dinner's ready.
Okay.
I think he expected me to, like, start getting hysterical or something. I said, Zach, you know what? I have your father, and who you love, that's going to be your choice.
Zach's parents both believe that homosexuality was probably in their son's DNA. For them, there is no medical mystery. But might a proven genetic link help other parents understand what they saw with their own eyes? Chris and Deborah Hawkins were convinced their son David was gay when he was just 3. What did you see that made you think that?
I saw feminine traits. I can't find another word other than he, like prissy.
Let's go around the block.
Deborah still sees the evidence in her home videos of David. She showed us some of the scenes.
Even here, his run was a little flamboyant. The way he holds his hands. I mean, I even felt like sometimes his walk, his mannerisms.
Oh, like this?
Yeah, yeah. It was just a little more dramatic than other little boys.
David, who is now in his early 20s and openly gay, says he doesn't remember feeling different from his playmates.
I think I thought that I was normal. My mom definitely saw it before me. Adults had better tools to see things early on.
Deborah says there were other signs she worried about. David hated to get dirty and always wanted to play dress-up.
We would play king and queen, and of course, I was the king and he was the queen, you know, so.
I was very insistent upon being the queen. That was my role. I identified more with that kind of personality rather than the gallant, you know, hero.
Living in Greenville, South Carolina, a fundamentalist Christian community, Deborah was repeatedly taught that homosexuality was something little boys picked up from TV.
Missing the point, darling.
And movies, something they learned.
Deborah, did you at that point consult anybody, a therapist, your minister, anyone?
I didn't feel like I could tell a neighbor, anyone from the church, anyone from my family, because 20 years ago it felt like a sin.
Having no place to turn, Deborah and Chris waited and worried until one day shortly after David turned 15.
He came to me and shared with me that he met someone that he was just crazy about.
A guy.
A guy. At that point, it's like, you know, the rubber meeting the road. You know, we really had to get behind him and support him.
What was your reaction when he told you that?
Terror.
Deborah and Chris began reading everything they could find. They learned that about 1 in 10 kids could be gay, and that scientists are arguing over whether it's from nature or nurture. They were sure David was born gay.
Sexual identity, as far as you're concerned, is not behavioral, it's biological.
Yes, I'm convinced.
Chris?
Yeah, I'm absolutely convinced on the aspect that it is biological and not taught behavior or choice or anything like that.
Dr. Alan Sanders, a geneticist at Evanston Northwestern Healthcare Research Institute, is currently heading the biggest study ever undertaken on sexual orientation. He's looking at the genetic makeup of more than 700 sets of gay brothers, hoping to solve the medical mystery and help families like the Hawkins.
Do you believe you're going to find a gay gene?
I think the evidence is pretty convincing already that a substantial contribution to sexual orientation comes from genetics.
Todd Gottesman and Robin Grenier are both gay, both part of Dr. Sanders' study. They're brothers who didn't know each other until they were in their 20s. Todd was adopted out and raised by a well-to-do Jewish couple. Robin grew up with their biological mother in a fatherless, working-class Catholic household.
I really did wonder, was it because I didn't have a father that I was gay? And then when I met Todd, it all made sense to me, and it wasn't because I didn't have a father. It was because that's who I am.
But Dr. Stanton Jones, a psychologist and evangelical Christian, says genetics plays at best just a small role.
The major misunderstanding in public awareness is that people are gay when they're born.
And what's wrong with that position?
That the evidence doesn't support it. The scientific evidence doesn't support it.
Jones's book, Ex-Gays, illustrates his belief that learned behavior plays a bigger role than biology, and that gay men can be converted to heterosexuals.
Do you think you could have had any success in changing?
No, I don't. Those type of programs, they just teach the person how to live in denial and push those feelings aside.
If they're right, and science does find that genetic link to homosexuality, could there one day be a test that will tell parents about their baby's sexual identity in the womb, so they could perhaps change it? Cindy O'Connor would never have considered it. If they'd offered you a patch,
A vaccine.
a hormone patch, to say, well, we think he's going to be gay, would you rather take this and then we know he'll be straight?
No, I wouldn't have cared. He is who he is. It doesn't matter. You know, it's not relevant.
That happens all the time. All the time.
In fact, she's enormously proud of her son, Zach, whose acceptance of this medical mystery inspired an essay by his best friend. Would you do me a favor? Just read, starting with this bottom paragraph.
Zach is not only different because he is gay, but because he is more mature than other 14-year-olds. He has the strength to recognize and accept who he is.
Oh, I finished. Zach cannot control who he is, but unlike his peers, he can control how he acts towards others.
Cindy, why did that get to you so?
Because I'm proud of him. And it was hard.
And then the pep rally is next.
You know, to get him here.
It's hard for many kids and their parents to face being different. David Hawkins says he hopes science will soon come up with the answer to help kids like him understand why they are gay.
I think it will give gay children something to hold on to, something to say, I had no choice in this. Because that was one of the hardest parts, is the fight between am I or aren't I.